So this was a local race as far as just up, up north in
Yeah.
Salem, Oregon. So it was a quick, what is it, 2.5 hour plane ride compared to going over to the east and having to jump on multiple planes. So yeah, I was in San Diego getting ready to catch a ride and got in Friday night, got my car rental, drove to the race venue. Race started at 9 a.m. So I had plenty of time, slept in my car, and they gave me a nice little upgrade from a little compact to a nice Subaru SUV, which is really comfy. It's like, wow, I like this vehicle. This
Yeah.
is I have my Honda Fit that's an '08 that I've got.
It's a clown car.
Yeah, it's a teeny little car.
Yeah.
Hey, it's called Honda Fit for a reason. You can fit it, me and everything I bring with me. So I call it, as you know, the Honda Hotel. I've slept in that many times. And my wife, that has 280,000 miles on it. My wife's car, which is a Honda Civic hybrid, has 320,000. So the two cars together, 600,000 miles on them. But anyway, it was nice to have a little more room to spread out.
Yeah.
Slept there, and then we knew the temperature was going to be pretty warm, but no humidity.
Yes,
and I really honestly believe these last races that I did, so there are 4 races almost week to week.
Yeah.
It was 1 week break, but they were all in humidity. And I truly believe that actually was great training, because when I got into this dry heat, and I don't know, 100 to 110, I mean, it's a heat wave all over the West.
Yes.
And Oregon got it too. But it really, and I ran in bad water at 128 degrees at the hottest, but typically it looked up to the 120s. And I liked it. If I have a choice between heat, obviously the dry heat, but I really do believe that humidity trained me well, and I had a good race.
Oh, well, just, if anything, it just was like, oh, at least I'm not soaking wet this entire thing. Here in Bakersfield,
exactly.
It's 110, and we've been getting up at 5:30, Blanc and I, and it's been 8. We ask Alexa, she'll probably talk now, but we'll say what temperature is, and she's like, it's 85, and it's just humid, and Blanca hates it. Yeah, Alexa just said
108 degrees.
And it's 96 right now, and it's 11 o'clock in the morning.
I thought I had 108 degrees. I don't know. No, I must have misheard that.
Yeah, anyway. No. But she also said how. And so, and speaking of it, they think Badwater, Death Valley set a record. It was 130 the other day, and it's not quite official yet. And that's like the hottest it's been since like 1930 or something. I did it on a podcast. So speaking of hot, but yeah, so we're just sweating buckets, and so that's cool. That now, before you continue on there, I had a question. Like, you often are sleeping in your cars. Do you have any problems with the local authorities or anybody rolling up on you?
Funny thing, I was doing this little race in Bakersfield called Celtic 100 or Celtic 24 Hour, and this is 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah. And I had gone into their bathroom and changed it in my Jester gear, and so
at a mini mart, At a mini mart in the car, and 2 cops police officers came on both sides of my car, and they were nice, but they're what's going on here? It's like, oh, I'm doing this race because back then there were some clowns, and literally these guys, there was clowns going around doing mischief, terrorizing,
and so. Yeah, so they were really concerned, hey, what's this outfit about? And again, they were very nice, very cordial. Yeah. So I explained it to them. I said, the high school right up here, there's a race, starts at 8 o'clock. This is how I roll. And they're like, okay, all right. We got some calls. People saw somebody dressed as a clown outside the mini mart, and we just want to make sure. But I'm telling you, your police force is on top of it there in Bakersfield. At least they were for that situation.
Oh yeah, they're well known. I still remember one time we were coming home from some race up north, and we rolled into a mini mart in some small little town. Like a lot of farm workers are there, and you got out and you're partially still in your costume, and like Sunday afternoon, and they're all going in there buying beers, and the looks you kind of got. And
I do remember that. I remember that. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you get looks anyways, but there it was like we were the only non-Spanish speaking people for miles, and it was just some little podunk local thing. It was, I don't even know how we ended up there, but I just remember walking in and everybody just like. What is that? But what I was going to say, also people don't understand, like you sleep in the cars, is so many people have met you in person, but you're a pretty good sized guy. I mean, how tall are you?
6'2", with my
Yeah.
Jester hat more like 6'8",
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
6'2".
Yeah. It's actually interesting. I'm 5'10", but my two oldest sons are 6'2", 6'3". So they're kind of built like you. They're not as thin as you anymore, but yeah, so you're a pretty good sized boy to be sitting in those cars, but I mean, you got it down. And what I meant like though, is when you're sleeping at all these parks and stuff, you just never have anybody roll up on you, the police or any, or guys propositioning you.
No, that would
That happens
be
here.
a new experience. No, but that has not happened at this
Yeah,
point.
well, you're quite lucky because, yeah, I mean, the few times I try and sleep in a car, it seems like I always get people bothering me. So I don't know. You must just be getting lucky. So you got there. I know when we talked, and I actually made a sizzle reel. I take our podcast and cut them down to maybe 10, 15 minutes. And I started off the last one, like where you actually were saying you were tired. Did you get some rest? So when you started off?
I did. I actually got a good, decent night's sleep. By the
Yeah.
time I rolled into the race venue location, which I was concerned because I got there and there was nothing there. I'm used to seeing a race. You get there, they've got tents up and they're ready. They set up the night before and they're ready to go. Nothing. So then I thought, it's the wrong place. And I had an address, but they also had a GPS coordinate. So I hit the GPS coordinate and that took me around to a different place and no one was there also. So it's like, well, then I'll figure out in the morning. Oh, no, actually, it was the morning. It was like 6. I woke up at like 6:30, 7 o'clock. And it's like the race is only a couple hours away. There's nobody here at both locations. I was getting a little bit concerned. And then, finally, though, they showed up and set up their base camp, basically, and the start-finish line. But, I got some good sleep and felt pretty refreshed when I got out there to start. And, of course, saw some people that I knew. It was really cool to see Craig and April out there. Mm-hmm. And they did pretty well. They did the 12-hour. April won for the 12-hour. She, I think she did maybe 32, 33 miles, and that was good for the win for the 12-hour. And then
nice.
Craig, I think, did 40 miles and got third. So they both podiumed in their races.
All right. And so then so like I said, but you got there and got it on time. Did you have some time to get some stuff so you had a little bit of a setup or yourself?
This one, like the last two races that I did, they said you're completely self-supported. And I didn't come with anything the last two. I was just hoping I could beg, borrow, and steal from my local friendly ultra runners if I needed stuff. But I think they were doing that more to be compliant, but they actually did have foods there. What they did at the last one, which is really cool, everything was individual packers, like the individual little chip bags and individual little, the Little Debbie's cookies with the white cream in the middle, and everything just grab the package and go. So you didn't have to worry about, contamination, whatever. This was, I would say on their aid, it was more a minimalist, probably because of COVID-19. So there wasn't a whole lot of variety, but it was enough. And then Craig said, "Hey, Ed, you can use any of my stuff." He drove up and had a boatload of stuff on his table. And of course, the nice guy that he is said, "Anything what's mine is yours." And that was cool. He even brought his own big coolers for water and one for tailwind. So they had a decent setup there.
I'm laughing because when I was talking to Craig, he's like, you roll up with like a backpack or something. And he goes, and I roll up with my entire garage, and my wife makes fun of me. Like when he goes across years, he like brings everything. So when you're talking about that, it's like, yep, Craig was talking of that very situation, that very scenario. So, but you always live off the land, and then how was the weather when you guys first started out? Decent?
It was nice because we started at 9 in the morning. It was still cool, and again, no humidity, so that was a nice change. And then the course, it was a pretty nice course, mostly flat. Had a mixture of crushed gravel, some areas where we ran across a grassy area, some pavement, and some just little bit of elevation changes, enough to break it up, and actually much better, as you know, having some little bit of change rather than completely flat.
Yeah.
And so right off the bat, and it was also a lot of good tree cover. So there was only a few places where we really had true exposure, and we were in the shade for a lot of it. So that was good. But right off the bat, I started planning on my walk spots. And remember I said from our pre-race podcast, I was going to really discipline myself to go out a bit slower. And I did. I kept it.
Good.
Only a couple times I think I went faster than an 11-minute mile, but mostly 11s, 12s to begin with. And then early on, I started taking my walk breaks. The teen little hill, climb up that, walk up that, like 3 spots on that 1 mile loop that I started taking walk breaks. And my pace was still, even with the walk breaks, was still 12-minute pace. I mean, my overall pace in 24 hours was a sub 13-minute pace.
Nice.
So this was really, I got, when you do a race and everything all comes together, this was a race that happened. And even though I didn't win, I took second place. I am way more pleased with that second place finish than many wins I've had that have been like the win last week. I would say it was an easier win because it wasn't so much competition. This one had more competition, which we pushed each other always. And as you know from the race history stats, this is their 4th year, and they've only had one person.
We were looking at those results and was like, "Woo, what are you going into? Is it really rough?" It was just kind of just
that does scare me when I see results and there's no 100-mile people. It's like, why? Like that was a big clue for that Three Sisters race in Tennessee. There was a very good reason why there was only one guy. But this particular time, it was just they just didn't have the competition. That's why there weren't more. So it's a good race, and I paced well and ran my own race, and the heat just really didn't get to me. I slowed it down a little bit, backed off the pace a little, kept myself hydrated, and poured in the water, the cold water on my head, and that was pretty much my cooling system with my Jester. It's funny because people will always comment, "Man, isn't that hat hot?" And I'm so used to it that I don't really notice it. But I did. So I had I always have like an undershirt that's a little tighter, so I don't have the chafing issue. Because that's it's not fun to have those really sore bloody nipples.
I do the same thing.
And then I had my outer shirt was a ultra race shirt, long sleeve shirt. And in the night, finally I took that shirt off. So I just put my undershirt on, took my hat off, and it was much cooler running with that hat. So it definitely does add heat. I just get really used to it. And of course, in Badwater, we took ice. I took ice up into my crew does for me. So I paced it well. The course. So the race director, really nice guy, young guy, Josh and his wife, he said, "Okay, guys, just going to tell you right off the bat, you're going to get different reading on your Garmin. We're calling it a mile, and that's what we're going to do. Each loop was a mile." So I went around the first mile, and it was 1.03. So on paper, if you look at 1.03, like that's barely anything. That's nothing to worry about. It's just 0.03. And that's maybe cool if you're only doing a couple miles, but if you're doing a 50K, now you're actually doing an extra mile. If you're doing 100 miles, that's 103 miles. So my Garmin showed 115.35 versus their official distance was 112. I'll take it because we're all equally competing on the same course.
One of the things, because I just now going back, I kind of like talking about the aid station and how individually wrapped. One of the things that we've had that kind of COVID's going to make better is aid stations in trail races, ultras, whatever, have been pretty bad, gross anyways. I mean, I'm not a germaphobe, and I don't get sick. I kind of like Adam Kroll always says, because like if I drop something on the ground, I'll pick it up and eat it. I don't even know. I mean, I pretty much, but when you really get down to it, when you're at races and people are like the M&Ms or all these things, and just when you think about, I mean, I don't care, but when you think about it, I actually one year did get, I won't say which race, I did get really sick. I left the race early, not feeling well, came home and got food poisoning. It was like sick for a couple of days laying out on my patio. But when you were talking about that, it reminded me. And then when you kind of brought back I was like, oh yeah, about the whole aid station. And I generally don't eat out of the aid stations, but yeah, like especially like when I used to do trail races and I'm the way in the back. By the time I get there, like I've never eaten a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in a race because they're usually stale as hell by the time I get there. But then when you also think like, wow, this has been over. Sorry, there, stupid phone. There's been races, you know, where you're thinking, wow, how many people, 300 people came through here, pawned this food?
And think about it. If it's a trail race, we got to do our business out on the trail. There's not porta potties out there. So we're not cleaning up after ourselves. We got these nasty hands and we're sticking them in this humidity bowl of M&Ms. But, you know, it's one of those things. It's like you do what you do. It's just like they're professional men and women, but very high level professional women who they're just dropping their pants and peeing right on the side of the course. Now, in their professional life, oh my God, you would, you know, they're CEOs and executives, but you know what? The life.
But one thing that'll be nice possibly is after this whole COVID, instead of having the bowl of M&Ms, maybe we'll go buy the Halloween candies, you know, and just have the little fun packs. Yeah, because it would be kind of nice. Another thing, just because I kind of write notes and I wanted to catch on stuff. Big pro tip for all you ultra runners out there. Runners, I laughingly say, because almost every ultra runner I see starts walking and you guys are all terrible at walking. Yeah, I said it because when I'm walking past you going, learn how to walk. Look at Ed. He knows how to walk. And, but a pro tip is walk with your spouse. If you can't, if you just cannot get yourself to go out and walk as training, here's a sneaky way to do it so you can save face, though you shouldn't. You should be honored and proud to go out and walk like you do after every 100. You walk on Monday or Tuesday, you know, the day after race, is walk your spouse. Like you go out and walk with Martha. I walk with Blanca. And like when I did my first 100, I actually started walking my kids either to the bus stop or to school just to get those extra miles, the time on your feet, and that all adds up. You can't be a 100-mile multi-day racer and just go out and do these beautiful 2-3 hour runs where you're floating along like the Kenyan or the Ugandan guy who just broke the record in the 5K. You sometimes just got to be a mule, a pack mule. In fact, and you're walking, you know, with your spouse, carry extra crap for them, you know, or just, but like I said, I often will come home from a really hard workout or like from a race, and I'll walk in the door and go, Blanc, you want to go for a walk? Because I want to keep her healthy, and I'll be dead dog tired. But I'm like, hey, this is great training. So when you're talking about going out and walking with Martha, and, you know, it doesn't even matter the pace, or like I do a lot of meetup club hikes. And I always tell, and everybody always knows at the hikes, like if someone's having a problem, I'll always go back and walk with them. One, I'm being a nice guy, but two, you got to practice doing those 18, 20-minute miles, because someday you might actually have to do them. You know, I think you must have got a call too. I had a call. Yeah. Sorry. But, you know, but it's great practice because you got to practice walking 17, 18-minute miles. Like, so some of these people, when you're in races and you watch them walking, you can tell they've never walked in their lives. You know, I mean, I've got good friends who are fast marathoners, and I'll walk them into the ground. They'll only walk with me for 5 or 6 miles in a race and be beat up for, you know, so everything takes practice. So good stuff on that. I guess not too much else. What's that?
Two things that I just took notes I wanted to cover is, one, I do agree with you with the whole COVID-19. This is another problem you have when you come into an aid station is, like, I want to take stuff, but I don't want to eat it there. I want to eat it on the run, but really it's on the walk.
Yeah, that's
so
what
I'm
I
looking
do,
for a cup, but if they're cupless, then I sometimes will pack with me some Ziploc baggies just because I can grab one. But with the individual packs, boom, 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 you just grab stuff. And of course, you know, you got some garbage, stick it in your pocket when you get to the next aid station, get rid of the garbage. But it just is so much easier because you're trying to grab like open thing of chips and then you're losing half of them.
My dogs would love to follow me leaving an aid station when they don't have cups, because I'm just dropping shit and I'm not picking up. So I'm just dropping, you know, Cheetos and whatever, chips and M&Ms. And because, well, I don't like to bend over and pick up anything unless it's at least a dollar bill. And that's one of the reasons you're successful and I'm successful in races, just finishing them actually, is we just basically roll through an aid station, boom, 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 and leave. We don't stand there and graze. You see so many people like, oh, you know, because then you got to make up all that time and people just don't realize it. So yeah, definitely it's a good thing.
And that was the other thing I wanted to talk about is we both have the same philosophy on the benefits of a good, strong power walk, and it's a skill. And any skill requires you to develop the skill and practice the skill to hone it and to continue to do it to keep that skill sharp. So I try and convert people. Well, you know, I always try and get people to come over to the dark side of ultra marathons, marathoners to ultra marathon. But I'm also always trying to convert people or convince them how important it is to get the power up. Because look at the numbers. Let's say you could divide it up to where half of your 100-mile is walking and half is running. More likely, depending on the type of course, it might be much more on the walking side. But let's just say, make it easy, half of it's running, half of it's walking. Let's say you can run at 50 miles. If you're running, you're doing it at 11 or 12 minute pace. That's a good run pace for 100 miles. And so people are thinking, man, if I could shave off a minute per mile off of my pace, you know, I could really do a lot better than 100. But then it's like, well, no, think about those numbers. You're only running 50 miles, not 100 miles. You're walking 50 of it. Now, if you shaved a minute off, that's great. You just bought yourself 50 minutes of time. But let's say the 50% of the time, the 50 miles that you're walking, let's say you're doing an 18-minute mile because you don't know how to walk properly. It's a skill. You could easily, without a lot of work, shave that down to 15-minute
or
pace.
16.
It doesn't take much, even 16.
And that's doubles your return.
Doubled or tripled the benefit, and it's not that difficult. Like you'd have to do a lot of, you know, maybe speed work to try and, but people, walking isn't sexy. You know, running 100, that's the sexy thing. It's like, okay, and you could stick with that, or you could be smart and say, I'm going to end up walking. I might as well have a good, strong power walk that's going to be another gear. And that's what I love about the multi-day. You and I know this. We've seen it over and over. We've done it ourselves, that you can shift into that extra gear that a lot of people don't have, and you can just all day long just walk and walk and walk and walk.
And